I mean, you've taken a lot of useful information and helped us to understand it over the years. But when you look at the way that people deal with money these days, and especially because everybody's in a consumer culture, nobody's really thinking too far into the future. You hear about millennials and Gen Z and how they're not interested in investing in the house they live in necessarily or stocks and shares. Do you think that this is a crisis that we've precipitated by being cavalier about money?
Yes and no. I mean, when I did my research on it, on money, because money is kind of my subject, not the markets, but money. Around in 1930, the Rockefeller Foundation formed the General Education Board, GEB or something. And what they did was they dictated to the school systems what subjects could be taught in school. And the Rockefellers are the one who says, we're not going to teach money. So it's when you read things like that, and you go, why? Why did they do that? And I don't have an answer. But the General Education Board of America, that's why we have no financial education in schools. And the most powerful union in America, again, Marx always said, join a union. The most powerful union in America is the teachers union. And my poor dad was head of the teachers union.
Right.
And my rich dad just hated unions. He says, well, they always try to take more money, but work less, make more.
Right.
That's capitalism versus Marxism. But I think the biggest message, the reason I like having Sandy around, is the point is you can make it going up or down. It doesn't make any difference. But if you're only thinking, well, I have to invest for the long term, you're probably going to get hammered. Or if you're saving money today, what was the rand at when you just did a talk?
So in 1995, the rand you were giving 3 rand to $1. And right now it's 18.45 today? Yeah. That's a 600% increase, right? In terms of the devaluation.
Down,
Yeah, the devaluation is just
I know.
incredible.
If I take my rands to go and travel to visit you in America, it's not going to work so well.
Yeah. So
I feel for you guys. I love this country. Yeah. I feel for it. I go, wow.
What do either of you have to say about the fact that a lot of this is blamed on the idea of capitalism, mostly by people on the left who really don't know what they're talking about. But they like to blame capitalism like we would blame communism for so much of what went wrong in the Eastern Bloc of the old days, prior to the wall collapsing. But capitalism seems to have become equated with all the ugliness that we know communism delivered. That's not right. Those people don't understand. Explain why for the idiots at the back,
Well, the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad is like in 1965, I had to read this book here, Communist Manifesto by Marx, and I realized my family are Marxists. They're good people, but it's like economics is like a religion. You can be Christian, Jew, Hindu, Muslim. Well, economics is like a religion too. So they believe in taxation, they believe in labor unions, and they attack the rich. Someday you'll own nothing and then you'll be happy.
Right.
That's what's going on, magnified today. And America we're printing $1 trillion every 90 days. So we are Zimbabwe.
Yeah. I mean, you keep holding up those books. You should be holding up your book the whole time, because I think, although those inform it, but the idea that capitalism gets the blame for all of this, that the system of capitalism is somehow responsible for the fact that people find themselves in financial trouble, that's a misnomer.
Is it? Let's just break it down in simplistic terms. So the communist thought is everybody should be at the same level. Is that really
equally
a fair
unhappy?
System? Yeah, equally unhappy, right? Is that really a fair system? Whereas the capitalist system is saying, well, look, you have the opportunities in front of you. What can you do with it? And today we live in a world of technology, which was unseen just 4 to 5 decades ago, right? So why not use those tools to just create your own economy instead of being part of the big economy, which goes through recessions? And as Robert said, for me, I'm really not interested if the markets or the economies are going up or down, but I'll make money fast in the crashes. And I love the crashes. Okay, they don't happen that often, but it's nice to have them. And so we're expecting this, what we call the big reset, the great reset.
Oh.
So they're telling us it's coming.
When you see him smiling, you should be worried.
That's where he's a bad news omen. That's what he is.
So, but look, yesterday the Dow Jones dropped 600 points and the media are all over it and saying that how bad it was. Was it really? It was a good day to make money. Why was it a bad day? The education isn't there to teach people on how to make money both ways. The education is simply, you're employed, you're going to be paying high taxes. By the end of the day, you're so exhausted that you don't have time to think of how to improve your situation. Designed by purpose.
Yeah, it's almost as if, and I think a lot of people feel this way, that everything is rallied against you. And you have to figure out for yourself, as Robert said, they're not going to teach you this in schools. They never teach you about things like taxes at school. And that's probably some of the most important information you could get. But you feel like you're on your own. Where do we go? Who do we talk to? How do we find the information we need?
Well, that's what there's in good books. This is a great, not my book. I like to promote other people's books.
Sure.
It's called The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth. I recommend everybody get this book. I think this guy here is the next genius coming up. He is like this guy here, Buckminster Fuller, who wrote the book, The Grunge of Giants. The grunge is what's going on now. This is 82, I think, 3 came out. Our wealth is stolen via our money.
Yeah.
And the reason, what this book is saying is how you prevent yourself from being a victim of grunge. So, this guy's, he's a big Bitcoin promoter. And the things he says are so profound. Aha moments go,
yeah.
That's what's happening.
Right.
So that's why I recommend study. If you listen to a poor person about money or a Marxist, you'll get their ideas. Like I was talking about going to church. They all said the same thing. The love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
I say, well, maybe for you, but not for me, But the difference between Marxism and capitalism is, Marxism is you give a man a fish. Capitalism teaches people to fish. We're capitalists.
Right. So Africa is an interesting story, and I'm sure that you're not oblivious. Both of you are paying attention to what's happening all over the world. But the things that are going on here are much more about survival. And we don't have enormously developed economies. Some of us have slightly more developed economies in places like South Africa, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya. But a lot of countries on this continent are still in developing mode. And we are a hungry market for products and for services. We're also an unsaturated market in this part of the world. That could be an advantage if we use it properly, if we understand it and we make it work for us, rather than a disadvantage.
The richest countries have the poorest people.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love when he says that.
Yeah.
Look at how rich this country is.
Explain it, though, because people are going to be going, what?
Okay, Africa, we were in Kenya yesterday, and I was looking out of the window, and you know what I saw? Huge, vast land. And riches comes through commodities, not the stock market. If you really want to make real money, it's actually commodities. So does Africa have commodities? Of course.
Yeah.
Right? Does Indonesia have commodities? Of course. So all the biggest countries with the mass land and US land, but have the poorest people. Why is that? Shouldn't we be living from the land, not off the land? And yet we're not. We have right now, how many times have you walked down the street and seen an increase in homelessness? I'm seeing it all over the world.
Yeah.
Along the way here, we were being driven here. I saw something really fascinating. Rubbish.
Yeah.
All over the streets.
Right.
And why? Doesn't that cause diseases?
Yeah.
Right? Harmful. So why isn't a country like this, which has wealth, even doing the basics, cleaning up the streets, providing good, clean water, safe food, good educational systems?
In a word, government. We've got a rubbish government, but also we've got a potential solution to that problem you've just raised, because we've got massive unemployment. And you don't need to be skilled. You don't need to have 3 degrees to know how to pick up rubbish. We could pay people to do that.
But is that what you're educating people to just pick up rubbish?
No, I should hope not. But unfortunately, our education system, we spend more proportionally than almost any other country in the world on education. We get the worst outcomes.
But are you providing the right education?
No, clearly not. And again, it's got something to do with the fact that the priorities are not lined up correctly in government. You could spend and spend and spend, but if you have powerful teachers unions, which we also have in this country, and you have people being taught stuff that is not useful in the market, obviously that's not going to turn out very, very capable people.
And the world's changing, but it's not keeping up. Education is not keeping up with the world changes. How long does it take for an educational curriculum to pass through legislation, through a university
ages.
board? Exactly.
Yeah.
And the world's changed.
Yeah, I mean, technology is an interesting thing, right? Robert, when you wrote the book, obviously things were very different too. You didn't have access to the kind of information at a moment's notice that you can get now. I'm sure this helps you make decisions too, Sandy. But when you are looking for, the right charts, for example, to figure out what's going on with oil and oil prices, before you would have had to look those up, you would have had to have a bunch of people doing the research for you. That's changed quite a lot, and it's available now to everybody, right?
And technology is changing everything fast. That's why this book here, I get no money from this, but The Price of Tomorrow is how prices are coming down.
Yeah.
But this guy also talks about how you have the internet here.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is lying right on top of it. And so Bitcoin's the next technology. Then comes AI.
Right.
We're going to say, like Elon Musk of Tesla, they're laying off tens of thousands. Businesses are going broke because technology is replacing people. I come from Phoenix, Arizona at the present. The cars in the streets have no drivers. It's a testing ground for Waymo. And my friend says it's the strangest thing. He catches a Waymo. He's sitting there, it's pouring rain, but there's no windshield wiper on. Because, he says,
Don't need to see.
Waymo doesn't have to see anything.
Right.
They just drive along the streets. And when you think about the acceleration of technology, it's frightening. AI is going to jump everything one more level. So that's why what this guy's talking about, the price of tomorrow, is really free.
Well, that is a bit of good news in an otherwise pretty bleak situation financially for most people. So, Robert, to go back to basics here, for people who are really stuck, confused, they feel like they've made bad decisions about money in their life, why is understanding money a good thing? And why does money give you options that you might not have if you're poor? It sounds so obvious to me, but for lots of people, this isn't obvious.
Well, that's why it's this book here again, The Grunch of Giants. It's how our wealth is stolen via our money. Like Sandy and I don't trust.
Because there's a difference between wealth and money.
Well, there's big wealth. We don't trust our government.
No.
Okay, so a lot of people say, the government will fix the problem. The government is the problem. If you know what I mean. That's where it starts.
Reagan said that, right?
Yeah, something like that. But, I wasn't where I was going with that one, but I sit there going, who do you trust today?
Yeah.
And who's going to teach you what today? That's really the question. Like, I didn't do well in Sunday school either. I was a terrible student. But I remember my little Sunday school teacher, I was like 7 years old. She says, why were the three wise men wise? And I said, well, because they were rich. She goes, no, that's not it. I said, yeah, they were rich. They had frankincense, gold, and myrrh. She says, that's not it. I said, so why were the three wise men wise? She says, they were looking for the best teacher.
Ah.
So the key in life is look for the teacher you want to be like.
Very good.
Very
good. I mean, it's better to have money and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Another way, don't ask somebody without money what to do with your money.
Oh, yeah. Right. Correct.
You know what I mean? Don't ask poor people for financial advice.
And is it true, in your opinion, Sandy, that money makes money?
Money, I hate to say it, but, the term's being used widely. Money doesn't sleep. It's moving around the clock. I mean, take the concept. You go to an educational establishment like a school or a college or university, and they're telling you to study hard to get a job, right? And the job, in exchange, you're going to get money. But the concept or the history of it was never, ever, ever taught. Where did it come from? What's the purpose of it? And, what are you going to do with it? And what's the future of money? It's completely avoided. And it's important to understand that right now, you have the global financial markets at your fingertips. Everybody is using a phone. and you've got access to information. 35 years ago, you want to book an airline ticket, who'd you go to? A travel agent. Today, you book it online. 35 years ago, you want to invest in the markets, you go to fund managers. What kind of returns do they really give to you? But take the big commission fees. But you can do that today. You can get started today, believe it or not, for $100 to $500. So it's just really getting started, but you've got to dip your toes in the water. Don't think about it, do it. Learn through the mistakes, make the mistakes. There's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to get your hands wet.
Right. And what do they also say about timing the markets and time in the markets?
Yeah.
Well, also, let me just say this much. And Rich Dad put it, I said, there are 3 rules. Savers are losers. The rich don't work for money. Your house is not an asset. So people are programmed to say, I'm going to save money. So if you're saving rand, you're going down fast.
Ah,
And so the thing is, you got to change, what mommy and daddy plugged in here.
right. Because times have changed.
Yes.
That
changes.
might have been a good strategy back in those days. It
Correct.
certainly isn't now.
Well, 71, Nixon changed it all by taking the
Standard,
dollar off
yeah.
the gold standard, and then dollar became debt. So when people ask me how I make my money, I said, I use debt. I go to the bank and I borrow money. And they go, well, that's dangerous. I said, yes, it is. But that's what money is debt.
Right.
I got one more thing that this Buckminster Fuller said. The difference between rich and wealthy was the question.
Yeah.
Rich is how much money you have. Wealth is how many days can you survive without working.
Wow.
So my goal was that I would never have to work again. It took me to age 37.
And you're at 77 now?
Yes.
Congratulations.